if we really shine a light on who we're taking ourselves to be, there are so many moments that in some way we're the one trying to manage things. We're the one trying to make it through the day, trying to take care of the problem, trying to navigate. So you might be thinking, yeah, but don't we have to control some? Don't we have to make a living and have shelter and have our children go to school and take care of ourselves when we get sick and protect ourselves from threatening people and so on? And of course we do. This isn't about not trying to manage things where we can. This is about over-control. And the way I think about it, and I've shared often in my talks, it's just a metaphor that works for me, is that, we get born and we create this kind of spacesuit to navigate a difficult atmosphere. And our spacesuit is our egoic efforts at presenting a self that will be well received by others and protecting ourselves when we detect danger and trying to improve our life by having more pleasure, more gratification, and so on, by promoting ourselves. And it's part of evolution. We are designed to develop this egoic spacesuit self. It comes out of loving life and wanting to protect life. The suffering comes when our controlling strategies, our spacesuit activities are on full time or a whole lot of the time, and we forget who's looking through the mask. We forget the tender heart space that's here, the consciousness. In other words, when we're identified as the human doing and not the being, to say a phrase that you've heard before, when we're identified with the spacesuit, the controller, then we're always preparing for what's next. We're always having an agenda and we're not living it. We need pauses where we're not operating the spacesuit all the time. There's an author, Elmore Leonard, and in one of his novels, he has a character that's speaking who's been shot and realizes he might be dying. And I want to read you what he says. He had finally made it. He's talking about the guy who's dying. It had taken him 50 years to learn that being was the important thing. Not being something, just being. Looking around you knowing you were just being, not preparing for anything. That was a long time to earn something. He should have known about it when he was 7, but nobody had told him. The only thing they had told him was that he had to be something. See, if he had been told then, he'd have had all that time to enjoy being. Except it doesn't have to do with time, he thought. Being is an hour, or a minute, or a moment. So we'll take a moment now to pause, because maybe the spacesuit self was thinking it was listening to a talk to teach it something about meditation so it could get through tomorrow better. And what happens if we close our eyes for a moment and just relax out of that spacesuit self that even with a good intention was still doing something, and just be. When our intention is to just be, to inhabit being, we start noticing how quickly we pull into an idea or a thought. And yet in the space between the thoughts, activated in the doings and that resting, and that pause, the light of the universe begins to shine through.